but there's a whole separate ATE, because there's an ATE for that, like he gets the letter.
Yeah.
There's an ATE for the letter is changing hands into Steiner
several times,
and over here to the Beatrix for a while and blank.
Yeah,
like there's ATEs for all this love letter switching hands, and then there's an ATE just for the part where Baku gets back to the theater and goes, "Oh, I was supposed to deliver that letter to Zidane. Looks like I've lost it." He just starts laughing.
That's great.
It's great. It's great. We have a great show for you today. We're starting Disc 3 of Final Fantasy IX. Lot of stuff to dive into today. A lot of really, really, really funny parts that I'm really excited to break down a little bit. But I just want to remind everybody that if you're enjoying this series and you want to see conversations like these continue, please support the channel. You can do that 3 different ways. 1, you can subscribe if you haven't done that already, like the video and share it in places online that are relevant. 2, join our Patreon. We are actually running a poll right now for the game we cover next on the channel. We're actually getting close to the end of Final Fantasy IX here.
Right.
Getting there. So if you want to lend your voice on what we cover next, there is a poll there you can vote on if you join on Patreon. And 3rd, when we have sponsorships, we don't have one today. Giselle Pickles, peace out.
Oh,
but when we have them, please, if those products sound exciting to you, check those out. All right. Before we get into Disc 3, you had some stuff that we missed you wanted to go back into.
Yes, I do. You know how Zidane is kind of like, and by the way, I will call him Zidane and Zidane. I will call Quina Kina and Quina. I will do both. I will say whatever I feel like saying at the time that fits poetically with, okay. So you know how Zidane's kind of like, a bit of a womanizer and kind of rude and crude in the English version.
Yes.
Well, in the Japanese version, believe it or not, he's actually worse. And it's really funny. One of the examples for this is actually Ep.9 before Disc 3 starts. So when Eiko is having a rough time and Zidane is saying, "Hey, do you want to cry? It's okay to cry." And Eiko's like, "I don't cry. I'm not going to cry. I'm old. I'm not a kid." And Zidane's like, "Well, I don't know. You can cry if you want to." And then Garnet kind of, turns that back onto him, like, "Hey, you can cry if you want to also." So Zidane kind of asks Garnet, or offers Garnet his shoulder, saying, "Hey, if you want to cry, you can cry on my shoulder, if you want." And what Garnet kind of says there in English, I don't even remember, but I do remember the Japanese extremely well, because the Japanese, he says, "You can cry on my chest, not my shoulder." It's a very different kind of thing. If you think about when someone cries on your shoulder, often they are actually crying on your chest. Their eyes and tear ducts aren't on your shoulder. They're more kind of on your chest. And so Garnet, he says, "Hey, you can cry on my chest if, whenever you feel the need to cry." And then Garnet says, "Well, what do you do when you need to cry?" And he goes, "Oh, of course. Well, in that case, I'll just cry on your chest." No, he says, "I'll use your chest," is what he says. Well, naturally, I'll just use your chest. That joke was completely removed from the English version. So as bad as Zidane gets in the English version, he's a lot worse in Japanese.
I do get the change there, because
me too.
to say "cry on my chest" would make no sense in English.
It just ruins the whole
but then you can't
form.
have the joke
Exactly.
if you say shoulder.
Yeah.
So it doesn't work.
It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So another thing is when Garnet, I will also say both for that one, and Dagger, whatever. When Garnet is concerned about her mother, and everyone around her is just like, "Hey, you mean the mother that tried to kill you?" She's just like, "It doesn't matter. It's still my mother." The Western read on that line is a little bit different from the Japanese read, because the Japanese and Eastern Asia in general, they adhere to kind of the Confucian system that places heavy emphasis on filial piety, right? The idea that you owe your mother so much that nothing she can do will ever mean that you can treat her poorly, right? It doesn't matter. You owe her, and this is how all of Confucian society works, right? Is that differential respect to your elders, and especially your parents.
Is this why
and
in
if
all
you don't
Korean
do that,
dramas,
you're a bad guy. Yes.
The mother who's like a
She's a
freaking witch
jerk.
is horrible, and the rich son is always like deferential anyways.
Because in those societies, if the son is bad to the mother for any reason, it means that the director or the writer is portraying them in a bad light. It means that the audience is going to say, they shouldn't have done that. And it's less of a good guy character that they're trying to craft. So in order to craft your protagonist and get the audience to like him, he has to be deferential to the elders and parents. And so Garnet deciding, hey, my mother is crazy and sick, but she's still my mother and I care a lot about her. Let's go save her. That, we can understand that to some extent in the West, but the extent to which that type of personality, that type of instinct to just like, I'm going to at any costs maintain my loyalty to my parents. It's a lot deeper in Japanese than it is in English.
Well, it's also interesting to think of because she had also just learned that she wasn't her biological mother.
And she denies that. She says, nope, she is my mother. And everyone's trying to tell her, hey, you got an easy out here. You can just take it. And she refuses to take it. And this is, once again, to the Japanese heart, that would make it swell with pride in a way where it's just like, oh, even though it's technically not the mother, she still has filial piety. What a good character she is. What a good daughter. I hope I have a daughter like her kind of thing. And, all the more impressive she is for still showing that Confucian deference within the Eastern system. So it reads a little weird to us. And in fact, okay, so also when Queen Braun, when she's dying, her last words are also not what you'd expect. I think the reason why in English they made Queen Braun come off as a little bit remorseful, a little bit like, oh, I shouldn't have done what I did, is because of those previous lines where Garnet is just like, I have to save my mother. And in the West, it's like, well, she's got to be somewhat redeemed in some way. The Japanese doesn't redeem her at all. In fact, the last thing she says to Garnet in the Japanese is, I lived according to my desires. I did what I wanted to do, and you should do the same. And then she dies. And that's what,
totally
instead of
different.
saying in the English, it's like, oh, I led my kingdom down a destructive path. And she seems to have, but that's because they're trying to give a reason for why Garnet did what she did. Whereas in the Japanese, in a Confucian system, you don't need a reason to be that way. You just do it because it's the right thing to do. It doesn't matter whether your mother was remorseful or not.
Yeah.
But in the West, it's like, we kind of got to see some remorse here. Like, we don't live under that same system. And so Queen Braun is just like, her dying words are just like, I do what I want and you should do what I did. You should follow my path, basically, and do whatever you want. Now, there's some decent advice there that's like, hey, live in a way that you can be proud of. Don't be so ascetic that you put off all of your own desires and that kind of stuff. Like, there's something to be found there. But the way that it comes across, and especially that this is the daughter she tried to murder and she doesn't even say sorry or anything, it's something that wouldn't come across well in the West at all. So they really took some liberties.
All the people who followed us during our arc of translation, Japanese translation, can get mad about a new thing. Also, in like death scenes, like a character's like on their deathbed, they're about to die.
Yeah.
All these stories, they have the last moment where you're holding them as they're dying and they give their last words, right? It's a big trope. I would think at least in Western stories, given the religious foundations of the West, there's this sort of, I don't know if you'd call it tradition of being honest in that, sort of like
I can explain
admitting your sins on your deathbed.
There you go.
Right?
You got it. It's the confession. It's the end of life confession. It's your last rites that the priest would read to all of our ancestors before they died. And that's where it comes from.
Yeah. And so I would guess that's not the same in Eastern countries, or is it?
I don't think there's deathbed repentance in Japan. I don't think so. I think that's mostly a Christian thing.
Not to say that there isn't examples of people reflecting on their life and maybe having some regrets or wanting to say final, something final to their family. I'm not saying that would be common the same
in all cultures.
I'm just wondering, given some of the differences culturally that would have made translating this as it was, either one, feel really different or just not like what Western audiences expect, but two, feel like Garnet wouldn't have been justified in her defense of her mother without her mother having some ounce of remorse in death.
I think so.
Was the reason why they would go about that. And what I'm getting at is I wonder if the traditions of our storytelling being when a person dies, they have to think about now, oh, I'm going to go to hell or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's probably time for me to admit some fault.
Right.
Is just sort of baked into what we expect from scenes like that.
Whereas
not that that's a justification necessarily, as much as it is maybe just trying to understand the reasons.
And in the East, maybe instead of the repentance at the end of life, it's more of the passing on some advice. And you can take the advice of that Bronn says, like, live for yourself. Like, I've heard that before. Oh, stop living for other people, live for yourself, like I did. And that's where it gets weird, where it's like, hey, there's some decent-ish maybe advice that you should sometimes take, which is take care of yourself sometimes. Or like, the whole put on your own oxygen mask before everyone else's, like make sure you're taken care of first. But when Bronn throws herself into it, like, I just live for myself too, like it all turned out great for me. It's like, oh, that's bad advice. Okay, actually, that's horrible advice. So don't do that. But yeah, you're right. Instead of the repentance, it's more of just kind of her passing on advice. But because it's coming from her, it's just bad advice.
Yeah, exactly. So the very first note that I took for Disc 3 was they re-rendered all the backgrounds for Alexandria for different times of day.
That is cool. That is really cool. That's impressive.
In the beginning of the game, it was sort of like a twilight sunset kind of lighting on everything. Here, it's more like a morning, maybe getting towards noonday, maybe like 10, 11 o'clock sort of lighting. Totally different.
Yeah,
I was like,
looks
wait a minute.
Different.
These windmills in the background on that one map, kind of in like it's not the square, but it's kind of like
with the statue in the middle.
Yeah, the statue in the middle.
Yeah, where Zorn and
the
Thorn.
warrior.
Yeah.
I was looking at it, I was like, that doesn't look like it did earlier. And I pulled up my video. I was like, oh, the whole lighting setup is different. They re-rendered this.
Yeah.
Not just this. Every other freaking Alexandria screen in the game was re-rendered with a different lighting. And then they did it again for nighttime.
Yes, for nighttime. and only for a couple shots, really. Yeah.
It's crazy.
And the reason why this is feasible is because these are on separate discs from the previous one.
Yeah, that's probably
So typically you don't want to cram a ton of backgrounds, all together. You want to have your nice high-res backgrounds, but you don't have a ton of room on the disc for like every time of day.
Yeah.
But the only files for Alexandria on disc 3 would be those ones.
Yeah,
they wouldn't have to worry about the daytime ones on disc 3 at all. So every reference to Alexandria can use these new ones, and that way it doesn't cost any more space at all.
Yeah.
It just took a little more time in development.
Yeah, and it was just a nice touch.
Very cool.
You're visiting the same place, but at a different time. It just makes the world feel more alive, a little more lived in.
Yeah.
It was a nice attention to detail that I thought was really cool. So at this point, it's kind of like a morning, like the sun's kind of coming up. We're getting towards the coronation of Princess Garnet to become the Queen of Alexandria. So they're beginning preparations for that. Dr. Tot has come back to Alexandria. And we see the party has been sort of split up. They're all kind of doing different things. Time has passed. It seems that Freya and Zidane, well, Zidane's supposed to be, but is sulking, are supposed to be continuing to investigate information about Kuja. Where is he? What has happened? He's obviously still a problem out there.
Right, yeah.
And Freya is doing a lot more due diligence on this than Zidane is, because Zidane's depressed because it seems that he and Garnet don't have a future now.
Yeah.
Garnet herself is, preparing to take on a bunch of new responsibilities, won't be able to be free like she was for a moment there.
Once again, she is imprisoned in a castle, and it's just like, this is her fate. Like, you can just argue in terms of fate that everything that keeps happening, all the different ways she keeps trying to go out and have her an adventure and live on her own and make her own choices, she ends up trapped and locked in a castle.
Yeah.
And this is the third time it's happened now.
Yeah. Steiner has resumed his duties at the castle. So, they're all kind of separated again. It's a really interesting way to open up this next act of the story.
Yeah, you got Beatrix and Steiner and then Garnet at the funeral of Bronn, it seems, at least at her memorial site, at her grave site.
Yeah. This is going to lead into a sentiment that I've seen a lot, and one that I shared not this time playing it, but the last time I played it a few years ago. And that is that the momentum that the story was building really kind of screeches to a halt.
That's true.
At the beginning of Disc 3.
Yeah. It
Now,
does.
what I would have said last time I played the game was I felt like it went too far. Like the game slowed down too much. The pacing was hurt by this very long opening of Disc 3.
Gotcha.
I do not feel that way this time.
I don't either, because the calm before the storm, as you can reinterpret it after, playing the game a couple times, it's like, okay, if you know what's coming, then this doesn't feel all that slow and peaceful all of a sudden. In fact, it kind of feels like I better do everything I can in Alexandria right now.
Yeah.
Because and that way it's like, oh, the game is slow, but it's because I'm talking to everyone, I'm going to all the shops, I'm checking every corner. I'm just spending a lot of time in this town. And yeah, that does slow down the pacing a little bit, but it's because something's about to happen.
Yeah. I think there's a couple of reasons why I didn't feel that way this time. And I'm still doing all of the side quests and little things that you can do, like you said, while you can, kind of a thing, right?
Yeah.
And it still took about, for me, 2 hours to get all the way through the Alexandria stuff, all the way through the Trino card tournament stuff, and then into the attack on Alexandria sequence.
Yeah, that sounds about
which are
right.
kind of the 3 sequences we're covering today. And I don't know why, I can't remember, but last time I could have sworn I would have said that was more like 3 or 4 hours. And I just don't think it's as long as I was remembering it.
Okay.
So that's one. It wasn't as long as I remembered.
Okay.
2, I was cackling, laughing at some of these amazing little scenes that they have. There's just parts that were just so funny to me.
Yeah.
Like in Trino, during the ATE where Kina is running around looking for food and like kind of looks over that that ledge.
Yes,
and
that was so funny. It's like, I know these lights are just an illusion. I know it's just an illusion, but it might be real.
And she jumps down there. But the
so
part
funny.
that really got me was the old man comes around and goes, suicide, hey?
Shame. Yeah, but it is, though, because Quina even mentions, I know I'm going to drown if I do this. But I can't help it. It might be actually there.
It was so funny. And there's probably like 3 or 4 examples of ATEs doing that.
Yeah.
I loved the interactions between Eiko and Steiner, for instance, in the castle.
Okay, yes.
And
where
Dr.
she's
Tot.
like hanging, and that's
Oh,
always funny.
and Baku. That was the other part
Baku,
that really made me laugh. Baku is one of the funniest characters in the game to me now.
Yeah, he's hilarious.
Because he just, belly bursts out laughing all the time. So there's the sequence where, and I really want to get into this because I thought this was really cool. This is something I hadn't really sort of put together before in terms of the Shakespeare influences on the comedy, like the comedic sequences of especially the love letter part.
Oh, yeah.
But, she gets caught kind of on, because Baku comes around the corner and bumps her and she kind of gets caught. Her shirt gets caught. She's hanging. He's like, I can't get you down. He finds that hilarious.
Which is funny because what Eiko says is, I'm choking or I can't breathe
Yes,
or
I can't
something
breathe.
like that. And he's just laughing like, holy crap,
There's
dude.
a certain level of like not taking anything in life seriously that Baku exhibits that I really look up to almost.
The way that Freya looks up to Quina. Kind
yes.
of. Yeah.
There is a level of being able to take life in stride and not like take life seriously.
Right.
That I want that Baku has, that I need to like inject into my veins so badly. Because I really struggle with this in general, right? I've made videos about this in the past. What were you going to say?
I was going to say the idea is that he can't do anything about it.
Yes.
Like he accidentally bumped her off and she's stuck. He can't pick her. He can't reach her from the bottom and he can't get her from the top. Like there's nothing he can do. So in that situation, what else can you do but laugh?
Yeah.
Now Eiko doesn't want to laugh, but Baku is like, listen, even if I cried or shouted or got angry, wouldn't change anything.
Yeah.
So may as well just kind of like laugh in the irony of the moment and I'll deliver your letter for you, I guess.
Yeah. But it's like, yeah, she's like, I'm choking, I can't breathe. He's like, bah, I can't get you down. It's just that level of finding humor in situations that should be serious or something. I just really admire that about that character. And the time that made me burst out laughing was she's like, fine, if you can't get me, at least give that letter to Zidane. He's like, all right. He ends up losing it.
Yeah.
But there's a whole separate ATE, because there's an ATE for that, like he gets the letter.
Yeah.
There's an ATE for the letter is changing hands into Steiner
several times,
and over here to the Beatrix for a while and blank.
Yeah.
Like there's ATEs for all this love letter switching hands. And then there's an ATE letter just for the part where Baku gets back to the theater and goes, oh, I was supposed to deliver that letter to Zidane. Looks like I've lost it. He just starts laughing.
That's great.
It's great. It's great. And so I was enjoying all these little scenes.
He can't do anything about it. Like, where did I lose it? Should I spend all day backtracking and looking for it? Or do I just laugh at how life can be sometimes?
I loved that.
Oh, that's great.
So I was really, really into all these little scenes in such a way to where I definitely have 180'd on that opinion about the pacing being hurt at the beginning of Disc 3. I don't feel that way anymore. I think the humor is so good in this game.
Yeah, it's very good.
That it's and you're just getting all these little vignettes of all these characters. They're keeping relevant characters from the beginning who would otherwise be throwaway NPCs in other even Final Fantasy games, relevant all the way through the game. Like the Tantalus group being a part of the story all the way through is really cool. They weren't just guys you were banded with at the beginning that now they go away and you never see them again. They keep coming around and they keep being recurring characters who are funny and, fun to kind of see interact with each other. So I loved it.
Yeah,
I loved the beginning of Disc 3. That was great.
I even liked a lot Zidane and Garnet's issues that they're having, that everyone is telling them how obvious you should just go talk to her and she should just go talk to him, but neither of them want to do that. And it's funny because I remember the first time I played the game, I was maybe of the opinion of Vivi or Freya, where it's just like, just go do it, man. Like, obviously this isn't like you're making this a problem, right? But it really is a problem, isn't it? Zidane is a thief / low life, actor / ladies man, but not really, just he wants to be, but he's a slum lord, something like that. And she's the queen. She's literally the queen.
Yeah.
She can't marry him. She can't. She can't marry him for the good of everything. It's not. It would be such a. I don't want to. Maybe disgrace isn't the right word. If she married him before she became queen and then he was elevated, that would be different. But for her as queen to choose to marry someone like Zidane, that's asking for trouble. There's a show that I watched a while ago, which is funny because I was actually going to bring it up for Death Stranding 2 because Lauren Tsai got famous on this show. It's called Terrace House. But one of the early episodes of Terrace House, there was a girl from, I don't know if this would mean anything to you, but people who know much about Japan know AKB48 is it's a huge deal in Japan. This is a girl group, and they are performers. The band has been around for 30 years. They cycle out members, right? So it's always these young girls.
Oh, right.
It's always these young girls. But whenever one of them gets either too old or has a scandal, meaning held hands with a boy once or something,
because
they're
it's
very
a really big
strictly
deal
controlled.
there that because this is all a corporate enterprise.
Idol culture.
Yeah. They're meant to come off as being single and available because that adds to the appeal.
Exactly.
And
Exactly. It's big in Japan. And you'll go to AKB48 autograph sessions, and it's a bunch of middle-aged men in line to get an autograph from their favorite 20-year-old, Japanese girl. It's interesting. And once again, there's some, cultural differences here. But there was a girl from AKB48 went on Terrace House, and there was a kid who was in training he wasn't even a firefighter yet. He was in training to become a firefighter.
Yeah.
And he really liked this AKB48 girl. And everyone in the show, everyone around it, everyone watching was just like, she would have to quit the band if she dated a boy. Like that she, like her career is over. And he went for it. He was like, I like this girl. She was, of course, beautiful. And he, one day they're at the beach and he tries to hold her hand and she rejects him very quickly because she wasn't there to actually, the show is about, dating and trying to find, ways that love can blossom when you put a bunch of boys and girls together in a house. In America, those shows go very differently than in Japan. In Japan, it's very rare for these people to actually find each other and couple off. So it makes for more interesting, maybe more wholesome family viewing television, whereas opposed to the American versions of the show, it's they're all kind of sleeping with each other. And it's interesting in some ways, less interesting in other ways. So anyways, AKB48 is royalty in Japan. That is royalty. And I remember thinking about this too, like especially when it happened, because I was like, I was thinking as an American, I was like, I don't know, is she going to do it? Is she going to do it? I guarantee you everyone in Japan was like, she's not going to do it. She's not going to go for this guy. Like, he's not even rich. He's like in training to maybe be a firefighter one day. Like, this is not a high, I think it's a very noble job, but he's not going to make a ton of money. This isn't going to happen. And so I was holding out hope, but after everything happened the way that it did, and I slowly kind of realized, and there's commentators on the show too who are just like, of course this wasn't going to work. I'm thinking, yeah, I guess so. Like she'd be losing too much in order to do this, right? And it just kind of made sense to me. Anyways, this part of Final Fantasy IX reminded me of that moment on the show Terrace House, where this kind of slowly came together for me, and I just kind of realized, like, whoa. These Aladdin stories are just like really uncommon. And evolutionary wiring, it just doesn't make sense for those types of things to happen. They may happen occasionally. It's very uncommon. And there's a pretty good argument to say that the queen of a country should not be dating a person who is like a thief. What even is Zidane? Is he an actor? Is he an actor? Because if he's an actor, that can be okay.
He's a thief. I mean, the acting part of it is the ruse.
It's the cover, right?
Right. But I mean, you have the scene with Amaranth, the ATE, where Amaranth was a guard or something like that for the auctioneer family.
That's right. Yeah.
And Zidane went basically on a mission, an operation to steal something from there.
And
so he's definitely a thief.
Very smoothly dealt with it and got out of that situation.
Yeah, right.
That can't happen. You can't have your queen marry a thief. It just can't. It can't happen for the good of the city, right? This isn't just about her and who she likes. This is about like you are the ideal. You are the leaders of this city, and what you do, they will do. And whatever you compromise on, that it's the city compromising on all of that stuff. You aren't just your own. So anyways, I didn't think of it this way when I first played FF9. I thought they were both being stupid, which is what everyone says around them. But I look at it differently now, and I'm thinking this is a real problem. And I feel so much for Garnet as things keep unfolding, as all this stuff keeps happening. She doesn't speak her mind much, and eventually comes to the point where she just kind of stops really saying much at all. And the same thing with Zidane. He's trying to talk to her, but it's like he can't even say his real feelings. And he talks about this later. Like, whatever I say to her it'll be a lie because it's not what I want to say to her. But for her own good, I can't say what I want to say to her. So we just can't be friends anymore, basically. Yeah. Another part of this whole thing that I really like as well, though, is Vivi. Vivi has really become proactive in disc 3.
Yeah.
He starts being the one to suggest things to do, right? Mm-hmm. He's the one who comes in and says, hey, Zidane, let's go see Garnet. And Zidane's like, oh, okay, fine. And then they all go and see him. But it was Vivi's idea. He wants to do something of himself, and he's the one suggesting what to do. There was a time later on where everyone's like, where's Zidane? And Vivi's like, oh, I'll go look for him. And he just gets up and leaves. Well, that is out of character for Vivi. Things happen to him. He doesn't go out and do things. So he has grown a lot as a character, and he has slowly developed this personality, this proactiveness. I am going to, act on the world instead of just letting it act on me. And he's showing it in a lot of small ways, and later on in some bigger ways. But you can see this development of character that feels kind of natural, the way that it's unfolded here. Mm-hmm. And it all started with his decision to leave the Black Mage Village, I think.
Yep.
The process started before that. But that was the first big decision that he made himself instead of having other people tell him what to do. It was a big deal for him to leave that village and go with Zidane, right? And then he kind of has this ownership of life. maybe in part because he knows there's a place he can go to if things don't work out well. It's like, oh, well, I do have some people here, so I guess I can always go back there. That he didn't have that before, although he did have his grandpa's cavern, but I think his grandpa's been gone for some time. And so that wasn't really a place to go back to. I would guess
that's why he left it in the first place.
That makes sense. That makes
Quayle passed on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like what you're saying, though. I feel like there's a bit of a handoff here in terms of Vivi was the one struggling with his sense of identity. What am I? Why was I created? Right. And then learning about the mortality side of it. I don't have long to live.
Yeah.
And Zidane was helping him through that. And the other party members, but a lot Zidane because Steiner was separated. Yeah. But Vivi has now accepted all of this. And it's through that act of acceptance that he's now motivated to act, like you're saying. And we're getting this pass over to Zidane, who's going to be the one struggling with those types of feelings.
Right.
And Vivi's going to be the one helping now. You get a little bit of what we talked about with the hero's journey in particular when we covered the game Journey, where when you complete your hero's journey, the next step on that is to go back and bring the boon to your fellows.
Yeah, help other people know.
And so Vivi has kind of come to that part of the cycle where he's come to the end of his journey of acceptance, and now he's going to be giving what he's learned, even to those who acted on his path as his wise man on the path, right?
Right.
Him and Zidane are going to kind of trade places in terms of their position along that path. Because Zidane had come to a place of acceptance for a bit there, but now there's going to be some things that come up that are going to resurface some of that. And it's just an interesting handoff, and I think that they're doing it really well. They're pacing all of this in a way that feels right. It feels convincing.
Yeah, I think so.
There's a real nice sense of just time passing in the story in general.
I agree.
It's like at the end of each disc, they have a sort of interval where it's like time has passed since we last saw them.
It's been a while.
And it feels like this is becoming a long journey where these characters are getting to know each other over a decent space of time. And, real bonds can form in a way that is very convincing to me. So, I like that change that we're seeing in Vivi. It makes sense for him based on where he's at.
And we're even going to see some, what would you call it? Some like morality, some like ethical like choices that he starts getting mad about. People shouldn't do this or they should do that. He never talked like that before, but we're going to start seeing that from him too. Yeah. Like he's finally found something that means enough to him to where when things go against it, it starts to become very upsetting for him.
Yeah. Another character who gets a lot of screen time during this little section in Alexandria is Eiko. And Eiko, of course, is struggling with the idea that she's in love with Zidane, but he doesn't love her. He obviously loves Garnet.
Yeah.
And so she goes up to the castle and Steiner kicks her out. That was kind of a funny part. Stop screaming or I'll throw you in the dungeon.
This thing called me a brat. Or no, Eiko goes, he called me a loudmouth and a brat. And Amaranth goes, he was right.
I liked that.
And just like you, jerk. It's funny because we're seeing that it's kind of easy to forget that Steiner and Beatrix weren't there. They don't know everyone else. Yeah. And so all the people don't really know each other. Yeah. So Steiner is having interactions with other people, and then Amaranth is having other interactions. Vivi has an interaction, well, this happens in Trino, but with an airship pilot, the one who brought him to Alexandria in the first place.
I loved that.
Marco, I think.
I loved that and little detail.
And we see him later on, and it's like, oh, but he doesn't know who the other characters are. You know, and this is what I love about a lot of the ATEs is that one character is getting to know certain people in certain contexts that the other characters aren't and don't have those same experiences. And so sometimes when they come back together, it's like, wait, who are you? And you're with him, and this guy's over. Okay, you're all friends.
This adds to my 180 on this is too slow for the beginning of this.
There's actually a lot going on here.
There's a lot that needs to happen too.
Right.
Primarily for what you're talking about.
Before.
There are characters in the party who have never met each other yet. Amaranth and Freya do not know each other.
Right, that's right.
So we need a scene where they become acquainted.
Right. And I
then,
love how when they first meet each other, they want to fight.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is perfect. this is them. And then Zidane shows up and it's like, oh, okay. You're with him. Okay, I'm actually with him too.
Yeah.
Okay, we can be friends, I guess, right?
Yeah. Same with Eiko. Eiko does not know Steiner.
Right.
So, like, they have a scene where they become acquainted. Right? There's, like, if I were to go back and talk to myself from the last playthrough and say, okay, you feel like this is starting off too slow, which scene would you cut? I think if I were then to go back through and look at all of them and then understand the purpose of each scene, I'd say, yeah, that scene, we need that scene. Yeah, we need that scene. Yeah, we need that scene. So it's not just being slow for the sake of taking a breath in the story. It's not, a slow start to disc 3 for the sake of making the player participate in a card tournament or whatever.
I love the card tournament.
It's a lot of that stuff is really necessary. Dr. Tot brings up some really important setups that are going to be payoffs in disc 3 that a lot of people, myself included in the past, go, where did this come from? This feels so out of left field. All of a sudden the story just goes off the rails this way. I had no idea this is what was going to happen. Why didn't we set that up earlier? Right. It's not necessarily like, I still think there's room for those who have that criticism to say those plants could have happened in discs 1 and 2 as well.
Okay.
But there's some stuff Dr. Tot says about the summoners,
With
the
Eiko.
summoner horn,
Yeah.
the fact that when they found Garnet, her horn was removed.
Yep.
500 years ago, the crystal, because there's 2 jewels that they exchange with each other.
Yeah.
Garnet gives 2 jewels to Eiko. Eiko gives 2 jewels to Garnet. This is when they go and have their, brief meeting with Garnet real quick.
Yeah.
All of this is building up to where Dr. Tot, even the last time in the flashback with Garnet when she was little, he was talking about the summoner tribe and the crystals or the jewels.
Yeah.
So it's all sort of like resurfacing those particular details they've been hinting at. This is where we're going for disc 3 as far as story goes. We're going to explain that part of the world and why these things are important, why we've been continually hinting at them. So there's some good scenes there. And I just generally think it was important that these characters who didn't know each other yet, because the party was all split up, now they're all together in one place. They're meeting each other. They're giving a little bit of time for them to get to know each other.
Yeah.
Amaranth and Freya get several scenes together.
They do.
And these are the 2 characters that people most criticize as not being fleshed out enough in this game. But I liked that the 2 of them had scenes together where you learned why Amaranth has a beef with Zidane in the first place.
That was interesting.
Yeah.
And then Freya makes fun of him for it. Like,
Yeah.
you fell for that. Because it's the one thing that connects everyone is Zidane, and especially as Freya says, because Freya shows up with Amaranth, and all of a sudden she's like, so did you find anything out yet? And Amaranth goes, I didn't take you for the talking type, like just a chatty person. She goes, I wasn't until I met him. And then Amaranth is like, yeah, I know what you mean. I was different before I met him too. And it's just like, they just say him and they're talking about Zidane.
Right.
And it's like, he has had such a remarkable effect on everyone around him. And he hasn't even really done anything crazy. He's shown bravery at times, but he isn't a perfect person or as somebody that people would just choose to follow on their own. It's like, no, they were forced in this situation where he was forced into a situation that he didn't even want to be in, but he chose to act in accordance with like the virtues. Maybe that's not the right word.
Yeah, virtue. That's the right word.
Well, it is in the translation, but I mean, with what he knows was right? So he had his own moral compass of like, I'm going to do this just because it's right, regardless of all the other reasons to not do it, right? Yeah. And that alone kind of blows Amaranth's mind a little bit, where he's just like, what? Like, why don't you kill me? And Zidane's like, well, I'm just not going to. It's better if you fight with me than I just kill you.
Yeah.
He has this effect on people without even really trying to change people. He's not trying to change people.
No.
But his personality is changing everyone around him. Eiko also having to meet Professor Tot. That's a very interesting scene as well. Because Tot's just like, who are you? And she's like, oh, I'm Eiko. I'm from Ep.9. Sorry. Anyways, can you do this thing for me? And he's like, oh, sure. He helps her write the letter.
You look like a nerd.
Yeah, you've got the beard, the glasses, the hat.
You need to write a love letter for me.
Which is funny. If you need to write a love letter, do you go to a nerd? Anyway, anyways, whatever. It's
Yeah, well,
different.
the idea is she's going to
Poetry.
provide the
She-
sentiments. He's going to pick the proper wording.
The wording, yeah. And it was a very short letter, but I thought that was funny. And then she leaves, and he's just like, and as she leaves, he's just like, she had a horn.
Yeah.
What in the world? She has a horn. Like this kind of blowing his mind a little bit. And she's from a place that I thought wasn't real. And so, yeah, these characters have to meet. They haven't met before. One thing I thought was funny, and this is the transition moving to Trino. And it's basically Dr. Tot is like, hey, you know, I've got, you know, because he wanted to ask her about Madain Sari, I think, right? And she goes, sure, let's go to your place. And he's like, my place? I live kind of far away. Trino, actually. And she goes, Trino sounds fun. Let's go.
Yeah.
And it's like, I have two readings on this. I don't know which one's more accurate. But one of them is Zidane just broke down over Garnet, and he is breaking, and it is so obvious that he is in love with her. And Eiko is really upset. I think she even says, I hate you, Zidane, before this whole scene happens. And so it's like, she is just like, I need to get away. I'm going to get away from him for a while. I can't deal with this. This is breaking my heart, right? So I've got that where she's just like, I'm ready. I'm up for anything. Let's go. Take me out of here. But
What better place to go than Vegas when you're heartbroken?
with some old man. Anyways, so she's like, let's go. But then Zidane walks through the door and he goes, what, Trino? I'm coming too. And it's just like, oh, okay. If Eika was trying to get away from him and then he just shows up and he's like, I'm coming too, that is a problem. But the other reading I have of this was that she always intended for him to come to Trino, that she wanted to get him away from Garnet. Right. And it's like, stop thinking about her. Let's get you away from, and then let's go to Vegas, me and you. Right.
Yeah.
And so I don't know which one. My initial feeling was, oh, she's trying to get away. She's up for anything. Right?
I felt the same. And it's like Zidane also had the same idea.
Yeah.
He
I gotta
just
get away
needed
too.
to get away as well
Yeah.
because he couldn't even speak when he saw her, Garnet, you know.
It could be both then. It could be that she wanted to get away, but then Zidane's like, I'm coming too. And then she's like, great.
Crap.
But
I was
then she's
supposed
like,
to get away from
oh,
you.
wait.
Yeah.
There's an opportunity. So it could actually be both. They could be both.
Yeah. I want to talk about the love letter sequence really quick because I thought this was so good.
Loved it.
It's a really long sequence. It plays over many scenes. And it goes more or less like this. Eiko decides, okay, this is my chance because Garnet's going to be queen. And they're in a place where they feel like they can't be together.
Right.
So now is my time to strike. Right. I'm going to write this love letter. Oh, here's a nerd. He can write it for me. This is going to be great. So they write the letter. She's got it, and she's running to go give it to him. Baku bumps into her. She drops it, and she's like, I can't get down. Will you deliver that to Zidane for me? He takes it and says, sure. So he goes to the dock where he's waiting for the little ferry to come take him into the town. And Steiner arrives and starts yelling at him, you're not supposed to be walking around the castle grounds like this. You're a freaking thief. Get out of here.
You're a thief.
We can't have people like you just wandering around randomly in the freaking castle. Get out of here. He's like, fine, I get your point. You know, and they have an argument because, well, one of my guys saved your life. You don't have any respect or like any appreciation for what we've done. And so they argue back and forth, but he drops it in the middle of that exchange. They leave. Beatrix shows up in a patrol, picks it up, thinks Steiner wrote this because she had seen Steiner in the area. Thinks Steiner wrote the letter to her. So it says something like, in more poetic terms, return to this point at a certain time, midnight or whatever. A romantic time of night.
When the night wears the moon as its badge, or something like that.
So, okay. Somehow, which it happens off screen, that letter then falls into the hands of Blank, who arrives at that point.
Yeah. So Beatrix threw it out or dropped it out a window or like a second story or a bridge or something like that, and it fell on top of him basically.
Yeah.
And he was saying, "What are the odds? This was obviously meant for me."
Oh wait, is there an ATE where you see that?
No, you don't
Maybe
see
I
it
missed
happen. You don't see it happen, but he explains it because Marcus is like, the letter just fell on top of you from above somewhere. So that means Beatrix would have either accidentally or intentionally let the letter go, but from a higher position, right, from a second story window or something like that, and then it fell into his lap basically, and he thought it was meant for him.
Yeah. So Eiko, having seen the way Zidane reacted to Garnet, is heartbroken. She's sitting in that same place. So it's a place where the ferry comes to pick people up from the castle and take them back to the town. She's sitting there. It's dark. And she's like, oh, I'm so mad. I can't believe this. He doesn't even think at all about what I feel.
Yeah.
At this time, Blank and Marco show up. And he's got the letter, and he's explaining like, oh, someone wrote a love letter to me, whatever, told me to meet here this time. And then Steiner shows up. They drop the letter. He picks it up and reads it. He thinks somebody wrote this for him. And he's like, wait a minute. Did Beatrix write this?
Right.
Beatrix shows up at that moment thinking he had written it for her.
Right.
They have a moment where it seems like something may be budding there.
Possibly. And they're both just saying each other's names too. Steiner, Beatrix, Steiner, Beatrix. It's so funny.
But then Eiko gets really invested in this romance.
It's like, a TV show.
What's going to happen now? And same with Marco and Blank.
Yeah.
So like
they get a better view.
They have they just write it in parentheses, the thump thump, like her heart's like beating faster, like she's like excited. Ooh, what's going to happen? She's invested. And then, of course, maybe you can explain this.
I believe
why
Baku.
it is in Japanese, nosebleeds are associated with seeing hot girls for some reason.
I probably don't know any more about this than you do, but you've probably seen it in anime.
Yeah, a ton.
Right?
I've never understood this.
For some reason, when someone gets a nosebleed, it means that you have seen a very attractive woman or you are sexually aroused in some way. I guess because your face gets flushed when your heart beats faster, it's just more likely for a nosebleed. That's just a guess. I don't actually know the reasoning.
Does this actually happen in real life, or is this just an anime thing in Japan?
So. Has anyone in the comments, have you guys noticed that your nose bleeds when you see an attractive woman?
I'm just curious where this
aroused?
started. Was this just an anime trope, or is this like
I have never seen it anywhere else.
Other places in Japanese culture too, or is it just an anime thing?
I've never seen it
because I've never seen it anywhere else. So anyway. Yeah, exactly. We got like a freaking Dragon Ball Z Master Roshi or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
That's, as far as I understand it, that's what it comes from, is anime. Yeah. So anyway, she's like, oh my gosh. And then Blank's like, oh, I'm getting a nosebleed, or Marco's getting a nosebleed. Yeah. Like, stick your thumb up. Like, be quiet. Don't like distract. We got to like see
don't
where
ruin
this
this moment.
And then of course it's Baku. This is what was so funny because he had just gotten kicked out of there. By Steiner. You cannot be on the grounds, thief. Get out of here. He's just wandering around at night back there somehow for some reason and just like ruins the scene. Yeah. Just shows up like, hey, what's going on?
Oh, it's so funny. And everyone's hiding places are all revealed at the same time too. Where Eiko's like, you ruined it. And Marcus and Blank jump up and all of a sudden Steiner and Beatrix realize there was an audience for them. Yes. Which is really funny.
Embarrassing and all that. Okay. Yeah. So that's the scene. And it's a sequence. It plays out over a number of scenes. Yeah.
Well, and it's not done playing out either because Steiner and Beatrix later on have some funny moments too.
But this really hit home to me what we've been saying pretty much through the entire playthrough. The theatrical presentational style of the game. This is, I think, very heavily influenced by Shakespeare comedies.
Yeah, I think so.
If you've read any Shakespeare comedies or seen Shakespeare comedies, there's a lot of stylistic similarities here. Maybe in particular the comedy of errors, of mistaken identities. I don't know if you know that story, but it's two sets of identical twins that were separated at birth that end up in the same place. Nobody knows who's who.
Yes, I have.
It's not like exactly the same story as this, but it's a similar type of comedic trope or writing where I thought this was you, but actually no, it was you who wrote the thing, and like it's all getting confused. Yeah, as like a comedic effect.
A Midsummer Night's Dream has something similar as well, where a fairy sprinkles fairy dust over the wrong couple and gets the wrong people to fall in love and needs to go fix the whole thing later.
Yes. So there's a lot here that I feel like is heavily influenced by Shakespeare in terms of the comedic writing. The theatrical presentation of those scenes is as clear here as anywhere else. And the fact that they have Lord Avon, who's supposed to be like Lord Avon. Shakespeare of this world kind of a thing, wrote all those plays.
A lot of the names too, like the name Puck. Puck comes from Shakespeare.
That's true.
Even Marcus and Blank. And there's a lot of the names come straight from Shakespeare, and I believe intentionally so.
Yeah. So that's definitely what they were intending here. This is supposed to feel like you're looking at a little play on a table or something play out with these little characters. And this has never been more clear than in this scene that that's exactly what they're going for, aside from the FMV sequences where it becomes very cinematic for a moment. So they blend in the cinematics, but I think overall that theatrical feel is what they're going for with this game. And I just feel like they execute it so well.
They do. It's almost next level to think. It's one thing to write a funny scene, or like what you mentioned, a comedy of errors. It's another thing to view the climax or potential climax of that scene from the perspective of other audience people watching it.
Yes.
Right? The scene would have been funny in and of itself. But the fact that it
have
was made
seen
funnier
all the other
because
scenes.
we're looking at Aiko and she's like, oh, and it's funny to watch for us to watch Aiko watch them
Yes.
as this romantic scene unfolds, and that just adds another layer to it that it just puts it next level. I think
it's so
very
good.
very well executed.
It's so good. It's freaking wonderful. So anyway, all that to say, I've 180'd on this idea that the beginning of Disc 3 is too slow. It's not. It's really funny. And all the scenes that are not comedic are important scenes for characters who haven't met each other yet, and putting all the characters in the places they need to be for the story to pick up its momentum and start moving again. Yeah. So it's all pretty necessary, I feel like.
I love, too, that when Quina jumps into the water, well, I guess, spoiler alert, she doesn't die, or she doesn't die, but you don't see
what happens?
Her for a long time.
Yeah.
You just don't. It's just gone. And then it's hours, and then all of a sudden, she washes up on the shore somewhere, and it's just like, what? This is crazy. It's really, really funny because you could imagine that a lot of games will try to answer that quickly, like, oh, don't worry, they didn't really die. But to let you linger on that for a while, where it's entirely plausible that this character's life is over. I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, it's great stuff.
Trino.
Now we're moving to Trino.
It's the card tournament. Every good RPG needs a tournament.
Yes,
of any
and
kind.
This is, I would say, of all the criticisms of Final Fantasy IX, possibly the one that is the most universally shared. Is the hatred of this section. Now, in the years that I've been doing videos on Final Fantasy, because I started with the retrospectives. Now we're doing these long podcast series. I've put out multiple versions of some of those retrospectives in the past, get feedback, see what people think, see their arguments for or against certain criticisms or whatnot. And now this being I want to say this is probably my 5th playthrough of Final Fantasy IX total. I feel differently about it now than I did, say, the first time I played the game. But I do remember, maybe wrongly, was it Landon who was struggling getting past this tournament and then kind of like gave up the game, or is that somebody else I'm thinking
I don't remember
Did he
that.
beat it? I don't remember.
I don't remember that either. I actually don't remember if he beat it. I remember really loving this section.
Yeah.
But I can't remember if this was the point where he called it
might
quits.
not have been him then. It might have been someone else who was like, man, this card tournament's like pissing me off. I don't understand what to do. Now, there's arguments for and against this that it's hard to articulate all of it. I'm not even going to try, but they have explained how the card game works.
Right.
They did it almost at the very beginning of the game.
Yeah, when you first get a few cards.
And they basically have a whole character alleyway. Jack, you can go explain all the rules to you. They have the Moogle in the marsh who can explain even more rules.
Bro.
So it's not like they haven't tutorialized it, but they have not tutorialized it mandatorily, if that makes sense.
Right.
All of those were optional tutorials.
Yes, you could have skipped this entire aspect of the game this entire time up until this point where you have to now do it.
Now
That's
you are forced to win to proceed with the story.
Okay.
That being said, you don't have to win the tournament to proceed with the story. You just have to get to the final round.
Yeah, you don't have to win all of it, but you have to beat Sid and a few others. I thought the scene with Sid is pretty funny, actually, because it's like, I guess he's the champion, but he's an Oglop, so he can't actually participate in the tournament, but he goes there with Erin, who you'll remember Zidane hit on her previously
earlier.
Because she was this female pilot.
Yeah, she was one of the crew.
She was the pilot, I think,
airship
right?
or something.
Yeah, she was training to pilot this new airship.
Yeah.
Which is a piece of junk airship, by the way. The Hilda 3 or something
yes.
like that.
Is this the 2? I think I think they
2?
start building the 3. I can't remember which.
You're right.
There's
falling
another
apart.
one that he's going to build, and this one's not very good.
So everyone hails her as the champion, but Sid is following her the whole time, being like, I'm the real champion. Like, he just tells her what to do and she does it, I guess, is the idea.
Yes.
So she signs up, but he's the real mastermind, and she is the Oglop friend or Oglop pet, Oglop trainer. I can't remember what her name is. She got a little subtitle there. It's I get the Oglop comes with me, right?
She's the final.
That's right. Okay,
She's the final one, and you don't have to win that to proceed with the story. You just have to win.
Did, though.
You have to win rounds 1 and 2.
I am good at this game, and it's entirely possible that I'm just seeing something that other people aren't seeing, or that I'm just interested in it and actually play it throughout the game. That's probably more what it is.
It's not
I have
a hard
decent cards.
game.
Yeah, I've gotten leveled up on a lot of and I intuitively, as they put cards down, I just know where to go to win, and I usually win.
Yeah.
It's not hard, but you're right. You do have to know about it before this game, before this tournament, and there is no impetus to do that in the game other than the very beginning, and if you didn't pick it up, then you're just out of luck.
It is a very similar game mechanically to Final Fantasy VIII's card game, where
very similar.
There's a grid, and you place the cards down, and they have arrows
about which way they can attack.
Which way they can attack, and in turn, which way they can defend.
Yes, yeah.
So if you have a card, but they have diagonals in this, which I think adds an extra dimension.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, 8 did not have it where you can attack in diagonals.
I don't recall.
I think it was just directly above or to the right and left and then down.
Maybe people
But in this game, you can get attacked or attack in the diagonal directions as well. Maybe I'm misremembering that, but I'm pretty sure that that's how it is. In addition to that, they've added... On the face of the card, there are kind of 4 different little things to pay attention to. There's numbers and then a letter there. Yeah. 8 had no diagonal. So they've added diagonals to this one. So that's an extra layer of complexity. And then in addition to that, they have these 4 little indicators on there. There's 3 numbers. So the first one's a number. The second one's a letter.
A letter.
It's either P or M, which stands for physical or magical. Right. And that is just telling you the type of attack the first number is. So the first number is like the damage level or like how strong the attack is, but the second indicates what type of attack it is, whether it's magic or physical.
Right.
The third number is your physical defense, and the fourth number is your magical defense.
Yeah.
So you have to keep all of that in mind.
Well, and then the number that actually shows up when you attack and do damage is a different number altogether.
Yes.
Like sometimes you'll get a card that does 15 or something, and it's there's a lot of...
It's all calculated.
You have to know what all of these numbers
It's all
mean.
calculated based on those indicators on the front.
And where you attack, if it's a defenseless part or a defended part.
In many ways, it is mechanically a similar game to 8's, but it's just more complex.
Yeah.
You have to account for more things. You have to account for diagonals. You have to account for, is this a magical attack coming at me or a physical one? You have to account for, does this thing I'm attacking have high magical defense or low physical defense or what?
Yeah.
And 8 didn't have any of that to worry about.
And the board also sometimes has obstructions. There will be some squares that are sealed off where you can't go there, and so that makes it a little bit more difficult as well.
Now, an additional thing, and this is where most people who don't like the game really get upset, is that there is an RNG random chance that even if you have a more powerful card, it can still just lose.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah. And that is just because your level determines the attack, but the attack is like a range. It can do 12 to 18. Right?
Yes.
And if it does 12, okay, but if it does 18, good job. Same thing with the people attacking you. There's a range of damage it can do, and you could just get unlucky and hit the bottom of that range a couple of times. And even though you have the better card, they hit the upper end of their range and you lose. Right. Yeah,
okay.
That happens.
So, having explained all of that, everyone knows my feelings about randomness of this kind. I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't like it at all. So I don't like that element of the game. And it has led to, on certain playthroughs, I've just been very unlucky sometimes. And I think that sort of led to my intense displeasure with the game in earlier playthroughs.
Yeah.
Where I was just like, dude, that card should have won. That's BS. Now I got to do this again.
It's weird to deal with ranges and probability in a card game. It should be more definite what the amount of damage, unless you're adding dice rolls to it, it should be pretty definitive what your card is going to damage based on all the calculations you make. So it is weird to add that into it. That makes the game feel less of a game that you can actually play with cards and more of a game that has to be played on a computer.
Yeah. And additionally, it kind of depends on what kind of games you like. I think people who get into gambling, for instance, might like this element of randomness thrown in there. It's like an element of unpredictability.
Because sometimes it goes in your favor.
That can bring a level of intrigue or interest to the game that they enjoy that aspect. Okay. I think other people who have no interest in gambling or any randomness at all, people like me, they don't like that element. It's like, I want to know that when I do this, it's going to do this. So I don't think there's a right or wrong there. It just kind of depends on how you feel and what kind of game you like. But this could lead to you either being really into the game or really, really disliking it. But all of that being said, it's not like this tournament is really difficult anyways. It's not like they pitted you against expert level NPCs.
Yeah, like super high.
And you need to have really powerful cards to
There's
succeed.
random people you can fight in the world who are way harder
better
than the Trino champion. Yeah.
It is purposefully, because it is required to progress the story, an easy set of games.
Right.
So that even if you don't have very high level cards, you can still win because you have to win to proceed. So this is going to depend on how much did you play the game.
Real quick, too, I have to say this. The randomness also means that if you save ahead of time, that as you play, even if your cards are just not as good as the champion's cards, you still have a chance at winning. Yeah. If you'll lose a few times. If you really need that thing, you can reset your game. The game developers know people will do that. And then you can still win without having to go card grind for forever and get a bunch of cards just to beat this one section of the game.
Right.
You can get lucky,
Yeah. So it depends on how much you got into the card game prior to this, right? Did you go around challenging people? Did you play it in Alexandria at the beginning of the game? Did you play it? Because you can press square, I think it is, when you approach NPCs rather than talking to them the normal way.
Right. I think that's about how FF8 works too. There's a
different button that challenges people instead. So if you were doing that, this is probably going to be a breeze. I mean, just not an issue whatsoever. If you have not done any of the card game and you get to this point and it's the only time you've ever heard about cards was all the way back to the beginning, disc 1. It's like, wait a second. I don't know how to play this game. What's going on? I don't know what I'm doing. I keep losing. This sucks. And I think that's where a lot of the frustration might come from, is from players that didn't really get into the game. But I do think it's important to state that these games are not high-level Tetramaster games.
Right.
And they're not really that hard to win. You might have to try it a few times if you really don't know what to do. But it's not like it's so complex and so difficult to win that it's a huge barrier to progressing the story in the way that it comes across from some criticisms that you'll see from people who really hate it, me included. Back in the day when I made FF Retrospective, I talked about how much I hate this game. It's, in looking at it this time, I think I lost once, again, because I should have won, but the card just lost randomly. But I just redid that again, and it was fine. I proceeded, and I lost one time. So I did 4 total games. Won the first time, lost, but then redid it and won. Or I guess it's, and then, and then the Aaron. So, and I didn't lose that. I won that one. So it's, I don't know. It's one of those things where I think the criticism is exaggerated a bit, but there is legitimacy behind, I think, some of those complaints. But it's not nearly as bad as even I have said it is in the past.
I've just always enjoyed this. I've always enjoyed the card game ever since I first played it. And I think I do have a habit of becoming like of optimizing pretty heavily. Yeah. Of becoming OP, of just doing it often and getting just the best cards and then just being able to steamroll people. That's part of it as well. So
so if you were playing the game,
necessarily a skill thing, but
then you're probably not going to have any problems with this. Yeah. That's probably what you were intended to do. I mean, they probably intended for you to get curious about the card game when they introduced it at the very beginning of the game.
I love the FF9 card game. When I played FF8, it's been years now, I didn't really play it much. Yeah, I wasn't as into it. I guess it was more optional, and there wasn't this Trino moment where you have to be a good card game player. Yeah. So I never felt motivated to do it in 8. But with FF9, I it's a part that I knew I was getting myself into, and I was way into it.
And the thing, at least that I think Tetramaster does better, is the rules stay consistent. It's not like FF8 where in each region they have different rules.
That's right.
that you
That's
have
right.
to like deal with.
That's right.
Try to get them to like
I
change
forgot
the
about
rules
that.
and stuff.
Yeah.
Like that was annoying in FF8
that's crazy.
big time. Where you'd have to try to get like talk to the people and like get them to like switch to that region's rule set.
That's
like,
right. That's right. You need to improve the.
They at least don't have that in this game.
Yeah. The what's the word? The I'm Bosch von Ronsenberg from Dalmasca. The improve. What's the word? Where it's like I'm getting the prestige.
Yeah.
Level.
You have to build the meter.
And then you spread your rules, and then everyone adopts your rules.
Notoriety is.
Yeah. There you go. Notoriety. That's
exactly. Anyway, that's Tetramaster. Don't have much else to say about it other than it was funny that, again, I think what they're doing really well here is hitting you with things you don't expect. The last thing you would expect is for Sid the Oglop to be the Tetramaster final round.
and to be there with Aaron, of all people.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's funny.
He just seems to, and I say he, I mean the team that wrote the game here are doing such a good job in these scenes of doing things you don't expect in funny ways. Everything sort of has a twist or a turn in a way you don't expect that is funny.
Yeah.
In almost every scene. It's really great. So I really liked that aspect of it. But right at the end of this, Eiko comes running back and says, "Oh no,
urgent.
Holy crap, Alexandria's in trouble. It's being attacked. Kuja has summoned Bahamut and is attacking Alexandria with it." And his intent here is to try to get, well, actually, I'm actually not sure on this. This is a little bit fuzzy to me. I don't know if it was unexpected that Alexander got summoned or if it was he baited Alexander into getting summoned so he could take control of that one too.
Right.
Not sure if it's that important necessarily,
I
but
don't
I was
know
a little
because
fuzzy on that.
Whatever he
detail.
did, it was not what he was supposed to do. And that's partly why it's fuzzy, because we are introduced to a new character throughout this sequence. And it seems as though what Kuja has been doing up to this point is acceptable, but whatever he's doing here is unacceptable. And I don't really see the difference much. I don't know exactly how he is overstepping his bounds at the moment.
We'll get more into that.
Yeah.
Towards the end of Disc.
But I think that's part of where the confusion is, where it's like, wait, what was his intent here? Because it seems in line with everything else he was doing.
Yeah, I mean, he's trying to take these summons. He's trying to get these Eidolons, like take control.
Collect them all.
So he baited Braun into coming and attacking him at the Aoife tree to summon Bahamut.
Right.
He wanted her to do that. So he could use
to
the Invincible, that eye in the sky thing, to take control of it from her.
Which I believe we also saw that eye the day that Madain Sari was destroyed. The eye was kind of present there.
Yes. So anyway, there's a line that he speaks, and I didn't write it down, so I can't remember precisely what he says. But that gave me the sense that maybe this was an unexpected turn of events, but still one that he was fine with because now he can just take control of Alexander.
Sure, yeah.
But anyway, Bahamut's attacking the city. Garnet and Beatrix and Steiner, gather arms and get ready to go out and defend the city. And you are playing as Beatrix and Steiner as they kind of run through the city, fighting off monsters. I like that scene a lot, actually. The two of them. You're getting a little bit more of them kind of connecting. You're seeing a bit of a blossoming romance
Steiner
there.
being like, I won't let you fight alone.
Yes.
And Beatrix, it's very good. It's very good. She's like, but you're wounded too. You got hurt more than I did. And he's like, it doesn't matter.
It is but a scratch.
It is but a scratch. A flesh wound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. And you get to fight with Beatrix a little more. Another thing that I've noticed, a lot of people kind of wished that Beatrix became like a permanent member of the party at some point in the game. I've seen a lot of that sentiment. I've never really felt that way. But,
I haven't either.
I do like that at least twice now they've allowed you to fight with Beatrix in the party, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
To see, to have a character who was so powerful, who was revered for her swordsmanship, being someone fighting on your side now. So these are nice.
Although I have to say, all of a sudden, these characters get a lot less powerful when we're the ones controlling them.
That's true. She's actually only level 20, and her attacks do way less damage.
Way less damage, and these bugs, they're like actually hard for her to kill.
Yeah.
Oh man, always happens.
It happens. It's what it is. Oh, but I actually one thing I noticed here is I think this sequence of battles was really important for a gameplay reason.
Okay.
And that's because Steiner was separated such a long time ago from the party that I had Vivi and Zidane at like level 28, 29 at this point.
That's right. And Steiner was
was level 13.
Yeah, that's right.
And so they really needed to get him leveled up a bit. So I went from level 13 to level 20 just in this sequence of battles.
Basically every battle he would level up
against these monsters. And he learned a bunch of new skills and like, because he was lagging way behind at this point.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's why they did this section of battles with Beatrix and Steiner, is to get him leveled up a bit.
That makes
which
sense.
I think was important.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool.
Great One had mentioned earlier, by the way, in the chat, that the letter scene is almost straight out of Much Ado About Nothing.
Oh, yeah, of course.
The Shakespeare play.
Right.
Yeah, so that was another fun little reference there. And this is, of course, where that, at some point, they're going to talk about this and figure out the whole thing. But at the moment, they both are just kind of fighting for each other. It's really fun. I love it.
It's great stuff. But in the middle of this battle, the party is coming back to Alexandria on this piece of junk airship that Sid built. That his Oglop brain is not sufficient to like build it right, and so he's struggling. So it's kind of a piece of junk. But in the middle of that ride, Eiko has those 2 jewels that were given to her by Garnet, and she simultaneously gave 2 to the other. They're sort of having a connection. There's some sparkles going on.
And Garnet herself, she kind of wanders up to the top of the tower on top of Alexandria Castle, and she doesn't know exactly why she's there. She's like, what am I doing? I'm not even thinking. And she's just
like
going
being called
to a place. Yeah. Eiko kind of feels the same thing, but for her, it's even crazier. She's called to just jump off
the ship,
the front of the ship. And somehow she just kind of ends
like
up.
teleports.
Yeah, I think so, because they weren't there yet.
The shot is really interesting. I don't know why. I had never noticed this in a previous playthrough. She jumps off the airship, but then it cuts to like a descending shot. So those cameras kind of falling down that essentially like mirror sword looking
the crystal
pinnacle crystal thing in the middle of Alexandria. She just sort of like teleports there and just falls.
There. And Garnet expects her. Like they knew this was going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's
they
because
heard each other's voices or something.
Yeah.
And so when they come together, again, remember or keep in mind, Dr. Tot, when Eiko had mentioned that they had exchanged jewels,
right?
That Dr. Tot had talked about the crystal, like the world's crystal, being shattered or separated
into four
and given to the 4 different kingdoms.
Yeah.
Medain Sari,
Clara.
Alexandria, Clara, and was it Bermesia? No, because Clara had
was
Bermesia.
The same one.
That was
it was Medain Sari,
Alexandria, Clara,
and Lindblom. Did Lindblom not have one?
And Lindblom was the other one. So those were the 4.
Yeah.
So those 4 jewels. He mentions this. So those 4 jewels come together, and they sort of like hold hands and do a summoning, and then Alexander, who is the guardian eidolon.
Crazy summon, really cool.
Yeah, really
the
cool.
whole castle has these wings that just like sprout out from behind it.
Yeah, and they sort of cover the castle when Bahamut shoots its energy and blocks it, and then a counterattack that defeats Bahamut. So Alexander is more powerful in this Final Fantasy world even than Bahamut.
Yeah,
and this is when Kuja takes notice of that and goes, "Oh, this would be a great opportunity to take Alexander for myself."
Right,
and summons the Invincible, the Eye in the Sky. But then
it doesn't
a new character
appears,
enters the stage.
Yes. a new foe, a new challenger approaches.
Yes, a new challenger approaches.
Yeah.
This is Garland. Of course, that name is taken from the first Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
The villain of that story was Garland.
Yep.
So this is a callback to that.
It's a dope name.
And he basically says Kuja has overstepped.
Yeah.
He's no longer doing what I sent him here to do. And this is the last straw. He says something really cool like, you have no idea who you have defied.
That's right.
You really have no clue what you've just done. You have awoken God or something like that.
It's something like, because he starts talking about fate.
Yeah.
And you think that, okay, here's the real master of fate. Yet even this individual Garland is just like, none can escape fate.
Yeah.
Right. This was your destiny to begin with.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's always funny to, like, you think Queen Braun is kind of the main antagonist.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, oh no, Braun's just a puppet, is being controlled by Kuja. Oh, Kuja's the real villain. All right, cool. So let's go after Kuja. And then right at the beginning of disc 3, it's like, oh, nope, psych. Kuja's just a puppet for somebody above him. And how high does it go? Because even Garland seems deferential to some power above himself as well. So you're seeing this like a revelation of, oh, actually, this was the real bad guy. You can only do that so many times before people don't follow you. This is probably the limit. Even doing it once is always a big reveal. To do it twice is pretty risky. Anyways, I find it very interesting.
You said something very important there, though. And this is in reference to another criticism I commonly see of the game, which I'm not going to get into because it would be a spoiler for the end. But I want people to pay close attention, or at least keep in mind what you just said. He seems to be deferential to some other force above him.
Yeah.
So just remember that.
That even he is subject to. And he's open about it. I even wrote the line here. This must be his fate. He's talking about Kuja. So Garland looks at Kuja, says, too bad for Kuja. This must be his fate. I, too, cannot escape fate. Someday, I must face your counterpart.
Yes.
Interesting. We don't know exactly what he's talking about there yet, but he knows that at some point he has his own destiny to fulfill, and that fate has an allotment for him as well. And we don't know what that is, but it sounds like he even knows that his appointed hour to die, it will come at some point, and even at the hands of a person who he's aware of.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
He also does mention Zidane during this little sequence here. Because he's talking about Kuja having, I allowed you to be free and to kind of roam this world of Gaia and do your own thing.
Yeah.
And this is how you repay me, kind of a thing, right?
Yes, of course.
No longer, right? I'm not going to let you do that anymore. But he says you and Zidane too.
Right, that's right. Because it says Zidane has defied me for too long as well. It's like, Zidane doesn't even know who you are, buddy. Like, this is crazy. I think Zidane's at a severe disadvantage here compared to Kuja, because at least Kuja knows that he just defied some authority. Zidane has no idea. Like, I'm sure he's been defying tons of authorities his whole life, but we have no idea that that there was some higher power that he has spat in the face of.
Yeah.
And, that was an interesting moment there. Yeah. And the question is that has Zidane done it intentionally or unintentionally? And remember, Zidane's past is a mystery, and we just don't know. It's obvious we're fighting against whatever Garland is, whatever's like, it's obvious we're, antagonistic to him. But it seems like he's hinting to something more. Like, Zidane, you defied me. How dare you? And it's like that insinuates that Zidane knew better than to do what he's doing.
Right.
And I don't get that feeling from Zidane at all.
No. He has no idea what's going on.
So that's fascinating.
So another thing that I thought was interesting about this is that Kuja did not expect this to happen.
Right.
He was like, wait, why is it not working? Why are you not taking over Alexander?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Could it be
that
he has come back to to basically commandeer or take control of the Invincible?
Right.
So he had access, Kuja, I'm saying, had access to the Invincible to be doing what he's been doing with it. Now, all of a sudden, Garland has retaken command of this thing.
Away from him.
And he's like, why would he come back now? Like, why? It's almost like unthinkable. Like, he didn't account that this was even a possibility.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, Garland coming back into the picture surprises him. And he's like, oh no. Like, this is not good. So Kuja has a little bit of a reckoning that seems to be coming for him here.
Yeah, he's got to run away.
He was not expecting, at least yet, to happen.
Yeah.
So.
But this makes you realize, too, that even Kuja, the self-proclaimed puppet master, is not the puppet master.
Nope.
And may have been just being used to whatever ends, as long as they were suited towards whoever was above him. And as soon as he tried to do his own thing, he becomes useless to Garland. And it's like, wow, he was, in thinking he wasn't a puppet, he was still just being a puppet.
Yes.
This also reminds me of something interesting, because Vivi brings up, probably around this time, maybe a little bit later, he brings up the idea that he used to be seen as a puppet, but no longer. Actually, this might have been when Zidane. This might have been beforehand when Zidane was having trouble with Garnett, because Vivi brings up that I felt when I saw Braun, I felt sadness. I didn't feel, and this is how I know that I'm not just a puppet, is what he said. He said, I know I'm not just a puppet because I felt sad when Queen Braun died, and a puppet wouldn't feel that, something like that. I can't remember when he says that. If it was,
it would have been.
Later.
It could have been. That would have come up right when she died, right? His little monologue over the top of
there was the monologue, but then he's talking to Zidane afterwards, I feel. And he kind of clues him into this a little bit.
I can't remember the line. Maybe it was...
Because he says, this is how I know I'm not a puppet, because I have...
Maybe it does come after this, because I don't remember reading that. So it might have been after this scene.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe I won't bring it up. There's an interesting note about that. What I will say then is this. The word puppet used in this game, in the Japanese, it's not the word puppet as a Japanese person would recognize it. It's actually the word for like a tool or an instrument.
Yeah.
And not specific. There's a specific context to it. A tool for killing, basically. A tool for murder. And when Vivi says, I know I'm not a puppet because I felt bad when someone else died, what he's really saying in the Japanese is, I know I'm not just a tool for murder because when I saw someone die, I did not like it.
Right.
Right. And it's like, oh, well, that makes more sense. When he says, I know I'm not a puppet because when I saw someone died, I felt sad. It's like, well, that doesn't
not quite
make sense. It doesn't hit the same as in Japanese, where it's like, I know I'm not made to just kill because when I saw killing, I wanted to run away from it. So like, okay, that's interesting right there too. So when we're talking about the word puppet, it's not always just puppet. It can also be a tool
that makes a lot
something
more
like
sense.
that. Yeah.
I was going to say along the lines, I got a little distracted because they posted a scene we forgot to talk about, which is Quan's dwelling. So we'll return to that.
That was from Trino, right?
Yeah, I was back in the Trino section. There's an ATE where you can choose to have Vivi go back to Quan's dwelling.
Yeah, it's after Marco. After Marco shows up, and Marco's like, hey, I gave you a ride to Alexandria. How was the play? And Vivi's like, it was pretty good. He goes, I heard something crazy happened at the end. And Vivi's like, it was wild, but thanks for the ride. Oh, good catching up with you. Hey, say hi to your master or whatever. And Vivi's like, okay, he is kind of close by. Well, his home is kind of close by. I may as well go back and visit it, for a minute while I'm in Trino. And so, he goes back and has a little flashback there. But
I think probably the most interesting thing that hit me about that section on this replay was Quan was trying not to eat. He was trying to find fulfillment in life not from eating.
Not from eating. And then he died. So that's interesting. Also,
this is also probably why he was banished. He gave up the path of the gourmand.
That's interesting. And also why he didn't eat Vivi.
Yes.
Because he was tempted to.
Yes, he was. And he was fishing into the mist, trying to find a way to find nourishment from the mist itself because he wasn't eating anything. He was trying to find a way to sustain himself and to find fulfillment without eating. So he was going on a different path from
a heretic.
his people, right? It was you could call it almost blasphemous for them.
Yes.
And obviously died of starvation.
I suppose so.
But he says, and that's what that screenshot is. Vivi, I learn art of fulfillment without eating food. So he found whatever that is, whatever that fulfillment, whatever that purpose in life that didn't come from the path he was given as a gourmand or the people of the queue.
Yes, of course.
So he figured it out eventually, but died in the pursuit, it seems. So, but no, what I wanted to touch on, because I think this also might play into that, is Great One wrote here, free will versus fate, with a little emoji with the sunglasses, right?
Yes.
Because this is the JRPG thing.
Yeah.
It almost always is fate versus free will, kill God in order to escape your fate. So I wondered if maybe for a minute, if you wanted to elaborate on why that culturally seems to be a recurring sort of motif, particularly in these types of fantasy games.
Particularly in Japan?
Yeah.
Well, that's a good question. This actually, it features quite heavily in the ancient Greek plays even.
Yeah, that's true.
The Aeschylus and Sophocles and Euripides, they were writing plays about this question of fate. Like, how does fate work? And this tension between fate and free will, it's just thousands of years old. It's almost the question of humanity, right? Is to what extent do we have free will, and to what extent is fate, are we subject to the forces of fate outside of our control? And in Japan, it's interesting probably because for the most part, Japan is a very homogenous, communal, community-oriented society. Humans in general are like that, but Japan more so than most. We mentioned before the highly deferential to authority and elders and whatnot. And after World War II, Japan really had to ask itself some difficult questions about why things went as far as they did, how they can maybe recover their place in the world. And part of this was, part of it factors into this debate a little bit. Like, can Japan, after being humiliated the way that they see it, can Japan determine its own fate going forward into the future, right? And to what extent did they feel that fate drove them to do what they did in the first place because they felt they were special, or that their emperor was the descendant from God and all that kind of stuff? That this is just our destiny to rule the world, or at least Eastern Asia, right? And then the humility of the result of those efforts led them to kind of realize that they have to explore alternate pathways. And honestly, Japan was in danger of falling to communism in the 1950s. And that's why America pumped so much money and resources and never abandoned the military bases in Japan and really focused on getting Japan up and running. To this day, China is very upset that we did that to help Japan so much, because we didn't help Japan's victims that much.
No. But
we helped Japan a lot because we know what they're capable of, and we didn't want them to fall into the Soviet side of the Iron Curtain, right? And so, but with that comes this kind of injection of, this leaning more towards this free will, autonomous self-determination kind of thing, separate from the rules that bound them from the past. There's a way that you can go way too far with that. And in my opinion, the free will fate debate is an oscillation that needs to find a middle, that can't go just to one side or the other. You can't feel like you're just a robot doing what you were programmed to do, but you also can't just feel that you have zero constraints whatsoever, because neither of those are true. But there's a lot of wiggle room there. As far as in anime just in general, I don't know that I can really comment much on it other than to say that Japan as a culture has been struggling with this because of the Confucian system and trying to find a way to break out of the forces that constrain them, but find it very difficult to do because Japan is a very constrained society. Yeah. It just is. And that's why it's so orderly. That's why it has low crime. That's why it has cleanness and low pollution and all of that stuff. Japan is a magical part of the world. Really cool. They're environmentalists and they're conservationists, and they're also very conservative, and they're ethnically homogenous. And there's something special about that island and those people, right? But at the same time, that creates a constraint that says, well, you're not allowed to be anything else. You can't be something else. This is a big story. This actually harkens back to what I was talking about before with Princess Garnet and how she just can't marry Zidane. Like, it just can't happen. Right. The princess of the emperor, the imperial royal family, she abdicated her position in the succession, and she is no longer going to be a part of the family, basically, and she has no royal duties, and she is kind of disowned by the emperor now. And this had to happen. It's a formality, but it's because she, and you can kind of do this as a princess. It's much harder to do as a queen. But she got married to somebody who the family did not approve of. And it's like, if you marry them, you're done. You're out of the family. Basically, you can't be a part of this group. And so she chose to do that, right? That's something that would have been unthinkable going, not that far back into the past, right? Yet Japan is at a place now where the people are starting to feel this ability to maybe pursue a more of a
personal path in life rather than one that was
dictated
or inherited.
Yeah,
I think
there's huge negatives that come with that too, though, and that's the trouble of the balance. Japan's such a magical place, but it comes with pretty heavy cost.
Yeah, I mean, this is also just want to be clear, not something that's exclusive to Japan. All over the world, if you go back far enough, children were put into arranged marriages. There was a lot where you inherited sort of the family trade or business from your father and were kind of meant to carry it on. Maybe even like firstborn sons in particular were really, kind of expected to do that, right?
And now in Japan, most people only have one kid if they have any at all, which means every kid is a firstborn kid. Every child now has that responsibility, whereas it used to be 1 in 5 or, something like that. Now it's just blanket, all of them.
So while that idea or that pressure to sort of like live the life that your parents or other people expected of you is not exclusive to Japan, I think it is in particular really strong there, a strong sentiment that has continued into the modern day, maybe more so than it has in other places in the world.
Almost anywhere else in the world. Yeah, absolutely.
And it still exists in other places in the world. I mean, I felt that pressure at a certain point in my life.
Oh, it exists here too, yeah.
But I'm saying,
any place with traditions.
I think it's maybe a little stronger in that particular region of the world in the modern day than in other places. We have a lot of stories in our culture where it's, maybe has come with this sort of like ideal of like personal freedoms and things like that. Where
that's Western.
You have so many paths open to you. You can choose which way you want to go. That again, we're speaking in generalities. I'm not trying to say they don't have any sense of personal freedom in Japan. Just that some of those sentiments may be a little stronger there, and that might be the reason why you see a lot of this particular motif of fate versus free will in Japanese role-playing games. But of course, you find that in Western stories too.
Yeah,
it was big time. It was big time present in Planescape Torment, which is a game that we covered.
Ah, yes, that's right. Yeah,
so this is something everybody understands.
And I love the position that game kind of settles in, which is it may not be your fault, but you do owe your surroundings, you do owe your society that you take responsibility for it, even if it's not your fault, something like that. Like you didn't have a choice in the matter, but here you are. What are you going to do? Are you just going to let things suck, or are you going to make them better? Right? Well, you can choose to take responsibility even if you aren't. It's a way of kind of having it both ways. That you can choose to accept some amount of the fate that was bestowed upon you, but that you have to go through a path. You can't just have it. You can't just do it because you were told to. You have to come to a spot where you choose to act in accordance with that fate instead of just you were, since a baby, told to do it. Like there's a difference there. And I don't know that everyone can necessarily appreciate that difference because it will look the same either way. That one person had a whole journey before they came to this spot where they've dedicated their life to like we've talked about before, an assumption, right?
Yeah.
But it's different than the person who just never questioned that same assumption their whole life.
Right.
That these two people are in different places, despite looking at them, they're both doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And this is maybe something that isn't as valued most places of the world, but according to the Greek tradition from which the West comes from, and people who aren't a part of the West, let me know if this is a thing for you as well, that you would see a difference between those two, but that because we prioritize free will so much, but that we also want an orderly society, it's like, you need to have the freedom to choose, but you really ought to only have the freedom to choose to do the right things, right? But that's it. But there's something true about that. But there's also something funny and like ridiculous about that. What's the point of free will if you're just going to be doing this anyways? But there's something to be said about the path that leads you to choose to do that, as opposed to the one that dictated it from birth.
Yeah. I don't want to necessarily hang on this too long, so I'll be brief here. But kind of like, well, I'm not sure but I concluded in Planescape Torment, let's say free will doesn't exist.
Right.
You should probably still live as if it does,
to not
like go crazy.
there might be like a handful of humans in the world that can live with it while knowing they don't have free will. But likely you're not one of them, and maybe you should just pretend that you have it.
But with all of that said, I think that this conversation probably can continue as we get towards the end of the game. But there's a few things Garland says here that he gave Kuja free will to like go roam Gaia as he
right.
pleased.
Free will to do something
Yes.
that once he infringes upon, he no longer has the free will to do
He
it.
had a specific mission, but he allowed him to sort of do it in the way he saw fit.
In his own way.
And this was a mistake he's realizing because Kuja has taken that and now is defying him. So Garland is really championing here this concept of fate.
Right.
No one can avoid their fate. Yeah, heavy proponent of it. Even I can't avoid it.
Yeah.
Certainly not going to let you live as if you can get away without understanding the importance of your fate.
Yeah.
But Kuja is obviously trying to break free of some kind of fate. So that gives us a little bit of a different perspective on that character as the villain of the story. Because in these JRPGs, it's always the god you're trying to kill at the end who's telling you fate is so important and just do, you have to do it because fate dictates.
These RPGs.
And it's the heroes of the story who say, no, I can choose, I can break free of fate. So Kuja is one such character. He was the villain, but he is trying to break free of a fate that Garland has told him he must fulfill. So anyway.
I just realized too, with the yin yang, this is order and chaos can easily be categorized also to fate and free will.
Yeah.
That pure, boundless freedom is chaos, and then complete, strict control through fate or other means is order.
And that's essentially the two forces of the Dissidia Final Fantasy game. So in those stories, it's chaos. And you have Dissidia, which is Cosmos is the goddess, and she's the goddess of order, and all the heroes fight for her. And then Chaos is the freaking villain, and all the villains fight for him. But I'm thinking of Stranger of Paradise is the one with Chaos. But the villain Chaos in Final Fantasy, or Dissidia Final Fantasy, and then Cosmos or something like that, the goddess of harmony. Anyway, just an aside. You were saying something about chaos and order. And
and then just fate and free will. Yeah.
The forces. Final Fantasy has this baked into its tradition in terms of the balance between those two forces. In Final Fantasy III, they had the warriors of the dark and the warriors of the light.
That's right. Which once again
when
maps
one side becomes too powerful, the four warriors of the opposing have to come in and balance it.
Yeah.
So it's like the warriors that came before the light warriors of Final Fantasy III were the dark warriors, and light was too powerful at the time, and they had to put it back in balance. Now we're going the other way. So that has always kind of been sort of at the center of the cosmology of Final Fantasy universes, is this idea of balancing the two forces, chaos and order.
However, these stories seem to be in favor of just getting rid of fate completely, and so
at the same time. At least that's always the imbalance.
The imbalance is always too much fate.
The current conflict is fate is imposing.
Yeah,
we have to
kill it. And but you will regret your choices if you. The funny thing is that complete free will is not something I think you would want. But even if it is something you might think you want, you can't have it because you have a human body and a brain and chemicals, and you live in a society surrounded by people with weather, and there's conditions outside of your control. There are constraints on your free will, whether you like it or not. They exist, so you can never be completely free will.
I was wondering.
But you could maybe be pretty close to complete fate.
I was wondering when this would come up. I knew it was something we were going to talk about at some point in a podcast, because it's just been something I've been thinking about a lot lately. This might not be the right time because we're an hour and 42 minutes and we're at the end of what we're going to talk about. And this is just definitely a tangent.
Oh, geez.
But you brought up the chemicals and the brain chemistry part.
Yeah. You're subject to certain things.
This is really, really true in a way that I think a lot of people are uncomfortable with or may not like to accept.
Yeah.
That there is something to brain chemistry and how you feel in that particular moment that has so much power over how you act.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Personality.
Even just like an abundance of something like testosterone, for instance, can really change a person's temperament, demeanor, their drives, all kinds of things in a way that if you just took some of that away, a lot of problems a person might be coming up against, they wouldn't all of a sudden have those same desires and drives, and it'd be much easier for them to choose differently.
Yeah,
and so
sure.
There really is something to being constrained in a human body as being a sense of fate, like a real sense of fate, based on your particular brain chemistry and hormonal balance in your body.
It may not be completely all the way on that end, but it certainly means that whatever you consider free will has to be defined within the bounds of that meat sack.
Yes.
that you're riding around the universe in.
Yeah. I mean, I've just noticed it in myself. I've noticed there are certain days where all of a sudden I have what feels like all of this control over how I feel and act, and sometimes it just feels like I don't.
Right.
And this comes with my particular issues that I've talked about many times in the podcast in the past. It almost feels like you don't have a freaking choice. I can't explain it, but it's like
Garland.
something
Garland talking.
is controlling me now,
Right.
and
That's interesting. Yeah.
and it's nothing more than just brain chemistry, right? That's how powerful that is, and
Very powerful.
it brings up a lot the moral or ethical questions about how we treat criminals and based on their history and based on their particular psychiatric issues, if we could give a pill to a serial murderer
Everyone.
or something, serial killer,
Yeah.
and it would take away those tendencies, was it really their fault? Should we let them back in the society?
This reminds me
Did
of
they really
Xenosaga.
choose to do that?
Was it Xenosaga 1 or 2?
Yeah, I think it
Where it's
was.
just
We
like-
talked about that a bit.
Oh man, what a go check that out, because I can't remember the name. It's like a Russian sounding name.
Yeah,
but the guy who had,
something Kov,
yeah,
the dude, the character.
there's interesting explorations with that, to whether that's really possible or whether maybe there is something beyond the chemistry also at work that can be affecting people as well.
This
But
is
at
not-
the very least, it is also the chemistry.
This is not the type of fate versus free will that I think they're alluding to here.
No, we've kind of
But,
taken this a little far.
it is still
but it's
interesting
fun.
to talk about,
I think
and
it is. I think it is.
that's going to be it for this episode. So
Yeah.
thanks for watching, dudes. Here's what I'm going to say. Certainly, we will not play to the end of Disc 3.
Probably not.
Well, play to the end. We will not get
you
to
should.
it. We will
You
not
should
get
play.
to it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to try to beat Disc 3 before we convene next week to talk.
All right, cool.
I think that there's just, it never ends up going this way. We always end up thinking we're going to get to a certain point, and then we talk way more than we thought.
Yeah.
So it's probably like 3 more episodes left before we get to the end of the game here. But we're winding down to the end of the series. So try to finish at least Disc 3 or get close to it, and then you'll know you've gotten far enough. We won't at least go any further than that for next time.
You know what? I have to say, though, this fight at the end in Alexandria with Bahamut and destroying the city, boy, did that look like Final Fantasy 16.
Oh, yeah.
I got some pretty big flashbacks to 16, and I thought, maybe 16 included a little more Final Fantasy in it than I gave it credit for previously.
Anyway, we'll see you guys next week.